At 7 o'clock, I'd like to call the office on 2023 on the water. My name is Seven Curran, I left from management secretary. The member is an alternative receiving the position for Mr. Carter. He is up to Scarborough Saddle, Greg Murray, and his left is Bruce Curran. Also, a member who will be sitting in punishment in the year. One that item on the agenda, over time, Secretary read the call, current new means and order, with the stage. First time anybody speaks, please keep your name and address. Please read the your name. The applicant will make their presentation or probably have questions. Well, if they didn't read here to speak in favor of the position. At that point, then the public hearing, the workers will remain listening for questions, deliberations, however, we cannot accept the minimal comment. If anybody that just with their cell phone, I appreciate it. Let it proceed.
Okay, ZBA 23-08, Newtown Road, USS Groton Sales Foundation, applicant Town of Groton, Omaha. For variances of section 3.3-2E to allow a 10-foot front yard setback with 20 feet is required. And to allow a 10-foot rear yard setback with 20 feet is required to construct a memorial structure. Pin number 1698087884744E MVC zone. For the record, the mailings have been reviewed, and I have just one question. There seems to be a lot of this was the key in the mailings, and I checked all of those mailings on, but there were a whole bunch of other more fine, but
More is fine.
fine.
Yeah, more is fine. I believe the applicant said before. You just want to do the due diligence, to make sure enough people were recommended.
And the other thing is, I just, for the purposes of the account and open, and Ross is going to be here. And he is part of the front and the tenant. I don't think that has a bearing.
Very good. Yes.
Well,
Okay.
that's for me.
Come around and. You actually can do it on the video.
Are you going to put over here? That will be able to see that at all?
It's at least for the, they can turn around.
Okay, I guess you guys are gonna turn around.
Okay. You can-
Or I can just dance all the way around too.
Yeah.
All right, that's what we'll do. So good evening, everyone. Again, for the record, my name is Chad Cross, principal of Kent Cross Architecture, based out of 1 High Street in Municipal. And so we're
The ZBA? Excuse me? Zoning Board of Appeals?
no.
Thanks. Inland wetlands is down the hall.
So as was mentioned, as you've seen in the packet, we were here as part of the USS Groton committee that's looking to install this monument out along the frontage of the library. So from a parcel perspective, this is the library, this is Drive 55, got Newtown Road running along the frontage. And to answer the question about why we send out more mailers, there's actually 2 parcels here, because the parcel we're here for you tonight is this tiny little strip in the front. It was the set aside of the larger portion of the right of way when DOT came in, put in the road. At one point, they thought it was going to be a 4-lane major highway kind of connecting all the way down. They never built that, so there's a lot of excess right of way. The committee through the town purchased that excess right of way for the intent purpose of putting a monument in that area. The properties have never been combined, right? So the town technically owns both of those properties. We're putting the monument in a small one, but because it's been advertised that the monument's going at the library, we did the 150 perimeter from the entire library parcel and the smaller parcel, so we can encompass everything. So that there's a couple landowners over here that might have heard, you know, it's the one at the library. But technically, if we only did this lot, we wouldn't have to notice them because the library is the abutter. So that's why there's more people on the list. In the notification that we get from the town, it does put the onus on us as the applicant to make sure that list is complete, even though we are provided that list. And so that's why we just put extra names on there to be extra diligent. But because that is a tiny little sliver of a lot, we are here seeking both a front yard and a rear yard setback. So as I pull that up a little bit, basically the property line, the rear property line is here, the front property line is here, and Newtown Road is right up here. So it's a very narrow piece of property. When you put the setbacks in, that's the setback line there for the front yard and the setback line there for the rear yard, right? It leaves you with a tiny little strip of quote unquote buildable land. What I'll mention is that both the sail and the rudder, where it connects to the ground, it meets the setbacks. We are in the middle of that piece of property. Where we need the variance for is that there is a fair water planes. I've been saying this wrong in the last 2 days. I said the fair water planes of the sail that extend horizontally off of the sail. They're going to be up about 12 feet in the air. Those extend out into the front and the rear yard setbacks. So that's the just to give you a little bit of background, so the memorial is designed to be able to celebrate the men and women who design, build, operate, and maintain submarines in Groton, right? And the fact that there is a submarine or was a submarine named after Groton is quite a remarkable feat, in my opinion. We lived here for a couple of decades. Most towns that are 5 miles wide and 5 miles long don't have a nuclear submarine named after them, right? So I think it's quite the honor, the fact that it was named after it. Now we can bring it back, we can tell the story of both the Groton and then also tell the story of EB and how, you know, the design of the submarines is important, how the construction, the operation, the maintenance, all of it happens here in Groton. So quite the story to tell. The plan is to basically make an earthen burn the size of the full size of the submarine, so full width and length of the submarine. Put the sail and the rudder in the proper locations as they would be on the boat, and then really kind of tell some stories in different plazas. So what we're saying is that this big plaza around the sail is where we'll have interpretive signage for the design and the construction. So that's a lot of the EB interpretive signage on the history of how submarines, not just USS Groton, but what it means here at Groton to design other submarines, will be told in this area. This stretch going down the length of the submarine, so we're calling the underway plaza. So we'll have a lot of interpretive signage talking about what it is like to be underway at a submarine or a diesel submarine. And talk about that. And then down here at the rudder, we're calling this the family garden. So this is where we have some signage and talk about what it's like to be a family member of the service members that are out to sea and deployed. And it's connected, right? But it's long, it's distant, and there's some things we're doing there emotionally to try to make that feel important and pay homage to the families that are back on shore. And then last is the connection back to the front door of the library. So this is the plaza right out front of the library that's existing planter bed. We put in a new walkway, and that's where we'll celebrate Groton and what the submarine industry means to Groton and what Groton is to the submarine industry. We kind of tell that story. So that's not really for any of your zoning setback type issues, but just the bigger context of what it is. From a section perspective, this is if we cut right through looking down at the submarine. And so what we did here is show the property line, and this is the front property line, the rear property line, and the setbacks, right? Just to make it abundantly clear, that's where the sail is in the center and the fair water planes that extend out into the front and rear setbacks. Pretty unique. Right, and so what I would say, I won't read through the whole letter, and then you all have it in your packet, but really the hardship, this is a hardship created by an undersized lot that was set aside. It's clearly not really a buildable lot when that's all you have in the center. It's not a hardship, you know, by any means, right? They're raising a ton of money to be able to build this as a memorial. And then likewise, a memorial of this size and of this importance is meant to be somewhere where it is front and center for the majority of the public to be able to see, right? So that if there was a time for a variance to encroach within a front yard for something of significance like this, it is a unique situation that wouldn't happen in any other lot within the district. So it makes it unique as well. Little more explanation if you wanted. That the berm, as I mentioned, that walkway that connects the two will be at grade level, but they'll feel something because of the berm. That's where the interpretive signage will run all the way down. We'll have lighting that basically the toe tick of that wall, kind of make it glow out of there. We'll have some uplights on the sail itself and the rudder. We actually were out last night, all of us, until about 10 o'clock at the USS Washington out of the Nautilus, with some lighting designers doing testing on the lights, what type of fixtures and throw and all those sort of things. But we're working through a lot of those details as we speak right now. But the first step is here for you guys with the variant, do that up front and rear.
Did you put together a photometric?
Not, we will, but not yet. Yes. This is, we can't submit any of that to planning and zoning until we get through it first.
One question, Chad. Are you familiar with that raised area that would be off to the left of where that is planned to be put? It's closer to the library.
There's a raise right down in here.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yep.
We're planning to put a sculpture there. Will that obstruct the view of the sculpture if we put it in that area?
So what I would say is I would love to work with you to talk about where we can find a good sculptural location. I know there is one currently right here. I think it's
Right,
owl
yeah.
sculpture.
This is to the left of that, a pretty good distance, I would say, but I didn't realize it was quite as big. I didn't realize the size of a boat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and part of it is because we all live in town. Very few of us get to see
Yeah,
a submarine.
no, that's
actually
fine.
close,
That's
right? So we want to
okay.
let people understand.
Because you're doing the same thing with Sutton Park, where then you got another one there.
We are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I would say if it was here, probably not a great idea.
Yeah.
It's going to be really close to competing. We can help find a location that would be both pay homage to whatever that sculpture is and not be in competition with other
Okay.
assets.
Yeah, Bill,
No questions, thank you.
Tom,
I think,
I don't know. Is there right here to speak on there?
Well, yeah, I guess I'll say a few things. Rick North, 224 West Shore Avenue in Groton. This project goes back some 25 odd years. Mark and I were both involved in the onset, found out the problem with the commission, which was 1997. To us, or to me in particular, it captures the fact that we're able to do this, and particularly submarine name this, even though it may not be called the Groton Monument, Groton Memorial. We're still working on what the name is. It portrays the history of the area. I mean, during the war, Aquanic Bridge, a lot of the shipbuilders actually lived in that area, and that area was actually built for those shipyards. So the fact that the location was selected, I mean, the first go when it was turned down, it kind of sat idle for a long time, and Mark at some point, I was working for town at the time, Public Works, formed a committee. We got together and looked at probably 20 odd sites to figure out where the best site would be. Ultimately, that site looked like the best. There's parking, there's restrooms, there's lighting. It's back from the road to 40 feet, so it's safe. And, ultimately, that's where the committee thought it should go. I guess there was, a look at another location, but that kind of fell apart, and the town then kind of got out of it and turned it over to a foundation, who would, as Chad had said, had actually gone out, raised the money, gave money to the town who first, the 55-foot wide parcel that we're trying to put this thing on. So, I just like to say that I'm fully in support of it, the people I talk to around the neighborhood, park, and support of it. I'll leave it at that, and Mark wants to fill in some more of the details, but I'll allow him to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Offinger?
Yes, thank you. Mark Offinger, 201 Broad Street, Groton. I don't have a whole lot more to say than what Rick and Chad have stated, but as was noted, we've been asked to be as the town or the committee since around 1997, which is when the vote was conducted. And, you know, as I wasn't in service, something gets decommissioned, well, it's ready to use. Well, no, not in the submarine, they have to then send it out to Washington State, the park, so forth and so on. And during some of that time, we started looking at various locations. Now, there are other sales that have been planted in the ground throughout the country, down in King Bay, down in South Carolina, and so forth. And some of them do attempt to replicate the full outline. They're not all 688 with different classes of submarines and so forth. And we when we started looking for sites, we ultimately identified, I think it was 28 or 29 sites throughout the community, the town, including the city of Groton. And this site, I think, ultimately was chosen because it's very visible. It's on a very popular, busy road in a good sense. I think a lot of people do consider the library, senior center, town hall, field, school, that's kind of our civic center as a community. So, and this location also, as has been noted, there are amenities. You've got the senior center, you got the, I'll always call it the senior center as opposed to Drive 55. The senior center, the library, we've got the history room there, we have restroom facilities, we have the Veterans Memorial right adjacent to. So there's a lot of synergy that can be created, including the opportunity to do presentations and so forth, you know, maybe in the library at the senior center and so forth and so on. So I do think ultimately we picked the very best site. Some of the other sites were over at Fort Griswold, at the main gate, at the front door of the subbase, which that was, I kind of like that because I'd love to have something that said USS Groton in front of subbase New London, but that's just me. But there were a whole bunch of sites that were looked at, and Rick was very involved, and Chad was, and there was a committee. The committee work really, it got into kind of committee work during sub-century, which was a number of years ago. You may remember all the little fiberglass submarines that sprouted up all over it. It was the 100th anniversary of the subforce and so forth. And that's kind of when the transition happened, as Rick noted, from being pretty much a town project with outside folks helping us to actually going down the path and setting up ultimately a 501c3, nonprofit 501c3, so we can raise money, which is besides getting the variance and getting local approval, raising the necessary funds is the big challenge. So it's you know, I speak in favor of this, but obviously I'm very much in favor of it because it was really something that we started working on during my tenure with Groton, both as the director of planning and development for the town, and also as town manager. I haven't run into anybody in my travels that has said not there or why are you doing this and so forth. It is a big project. It will be big in terms of a big undertaking. But I think you know, with all the amenities, the parking, being in the center of the community, I think it will represent the community very well. While it is about Groton, it's really about the subport and all, not just the drivers of the submarine, but the families, the maintainers, the engineers, the designers, and so forth. And that's part of, you know, our pitch when we go out looking for funding. It's just not Groton-centric, even though it is the USS Groton. So I would urge the committee's approval, the ZBA's approval of the request variances. You know, I'm not quite sure why the property wasn't combined at the time, but you couldn't do anything else on this property. That was the intent, that it would become part of the library senior center holdings. So I'm certainly real glad that Chad and his staff ultimately decided to include those properties in the buffer, than just do 100 feet around this long 10-foot shaped piece of property. And I'll stop there, answer any questions if anybody has, particularly from a historical perspective.
Bruce, question?
No.
Tom?
I'm all set.
Bill?
Also, thank you.
Tom?
No,
No. Is there anything in the file?
this might be appropriate to read the hardship. Read it to the record.
In the record, yes.
Well, it just kind of hits on all of it. The variance request meets the three criteria as required. One, a hardship is not generally affect other classes of living districts because A, the lot is undersized, non-conforming, B, the placement of the U.S. Navy submarine sail and rudder is an extremely rare and unique opportunity that will not be afforded to other parts of the district. And C, monuments of town, state, national significance shall be displayed with great prominence. This hardship only affects the monuments, town, state, national significance will not be constructed on. Two, the hardship is not created by the owner, but by the non-conforming lot. Three, the hardship is not finished, but contrary to the U.S. Groton Sale Foundation has committed to raising significant funds to pay for the design, construction, and future maintenance. So that's all in the record.
Anything in the file?
I have there's comments from Planning and Zoning Commission. As to August 8th, 2023, Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the referral and listed above and made the following comments. No comment.
Yeah. Okay. Any final comments on? I think we're good. If not, we'll close the public hearing as to the 24th. That's the question. Group.
Oh, this is like mother and apple pie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scott?
Bill,
Great project, hardly adored. Move forward.
Tom?
I think it's all stated.
Dalton, Ted? Motion?
I'd like to make a
Bob?
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the variance as requested.
That's
Okay.
That's approved. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No, carries unanimously 5-0. No.
Thank you all very much.
thank you. No,
Good job, guys.
What was your sign?
I can fill that. That's for the motion. For this. That's for the minute.
Yeah, good luck.
That's.
Yeah, good.
I mean, it will get, I'm sure at some point, formal. Maybe when we.
Don't not forget the deck.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We're
Okay,
close.
It's fine.
any correspondence?
I have no.
No correspondence. Minutes from June 14th. They're in the packet. Somebody give me a motion.
They're not a member.
For, motion to approve the minutes, as the minutes. Move to approve the minutes as the minutes.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? None? Favor? Old business.
I know.
No. Do an application.
There is, yeah, Triton Square map amendment. So I've seen this, which that'll be probably at the next.
The one that was there for with farm.
That was pretty.
Meeting schedule. I was also impacted. 2024. Yeah, Red Boston. Not meeting on, not meeting on Thanksgiving, not meeting on Memorial Day. So, somebody get Red Boston? Adopt it.
It's got the projected schedule for 2024.
I'll second. Okay, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? None? The next thing.
The next thing was the DCH 23001 Triton Square map amendment. So that's just for your review and comment. If you had anything to state about that.
All right,
I'm sorry, what was the motion in the second for minutes? Who did the motion?
Bill made a motion. And Tom,
And for the meeting schedule?
I made a motion and
Second.
Again,
somebody second. Second. Guilty.
any other business? Motion to adjourn,
Make a motion to adjourn.
second, somebody?
Go for it.
Second. All right,
Right now, we just.
all in favor? Aye.
Can't keep it down.
Being adjourned at 1:48.
Empty bag.
and your signature for the approval of the.